Hey all.
Hi, Joe.
Alrighty. My computer says 5 o'clock because the time hasn't changed on it, but I know it's 6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to all of our participants. Please utilize the Q&A section to ask a question so we can try to help you folks out. Currently, we have 11 panelists and 12 families that are participating. We want to provide you with some insight as DLA Digital Learning Academy families. Also with us is Jen O'Neill, who's had a lot of input with the DLA through the process, and Marty Gagan, who's been our DLA practicing principal of practice, if you will, as we have learned all these new things during this time. Within the next 48 hours or less, I'll be making some significant announcements on secondary schedules and reopening dates. So again, I know that I've asked all the families to hold off about the high school. Those should be coming in the next 48 hours or less as we finalize issues and concerns and problems that we have in each of our buildings, just like we did with K-5 and 6 to 8. So currently, our pre-K to 5 and 6 to 8 dates have been announced, and I'd like to share something with you tonight, if I may here, as soon as sorry, I thought I'd uploaded it already, but looks like I haven't. I have now, and let me share the screen. I'm getting so fast at this. I know my technology director is happy with me. I'm getting so fast at this. Come on, I need some compliments here. Let's go.
Well done. Well done.
This whole technology thing has been such a learning curve for all of us as educators because we're all at different levels of that opportunity. If I look back behind me, please excuse me. I'm home alone with a brand new 2-year-old dog that's still learning her manners. So the superintendent has a dog, so he's trying to figure out the superintendent's dogs doesn't really know their manners yet. They're still learning. This will be released to all families tomorrow. This is the district's reopening plan for in-person learning. And the impact for you folks tonight that I just wanted to bring up is simply to give you some assurances and information as you make your decision to just stay with DLA, which is absolutely fine. You have that right under the released rules by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we want to squash any rumors that are out there that specifically speak to the idea that you folks do not have rights, that you have to send your children back to school full-time in person. That is not true. The DLA option will remain as is. We have the staffing to keep it as is. We do not see changing in that staffing unless we completely have all grades, and all the students in that particular grade coming back, or a significant number. And we can talk a little bit about what that means. Tonight is really also to provide you a little bit of information about how you're making that decision if you haven't already done so. And if you're looking for more information, of course, reaching out to myself via the Let's Talk, Jen O'Neill, our assistant superintendent, special education topics to Vincent Searcy, or even Casey Russo, and of course, Marty Gagan in general, in terms of keep staying with the DLA and what that means to us. But I want to assure you that the staff that's currently working in the DLA is not being moved. They're not being laid off. They're not being fired. They're not being any of some of the rumors that we're starting to hear during social media. Those folks are here. They are compensated for until the last day of school in June. The major configuration of the topics that we've had to deal with, and again, this will be released to you tomorrow at some point, is that the return in-person learning really takes a look at 4 areas: transportation, which basically has become wide open, classrooms and building issues, food services, and CDC recommendations as of the 8th of March when we started to put this together. And I think it's important for all of us to try to be on the same page about a couple of different things. The first is that both Jen and probably Marty and Vinny, the three, but all of my administrators, I could actually say there's been a moving goalpost coming out of DESE since September, right? Every 2 to 3 weeks, there's something. And I can assure you, looking right now on the screen at Vinny Searcy, our director of PPS and SEL, there's no department that's seen a more moving goalpost than that department. Every 2 weeks, there's something coming out of DESE that you just say to yourself, you almost want to say, I'm really sorry because last week I lied to you. I'm going to have to tell you something else now. It's become that bad at certain times during the year. And we feel it. We feel it as administrators. We feel it as parents of children in school still, or people that have been dealing with schools all of our lives, either with our own children or because of our jobs. We remain committed to the CDC recommendations. I've made a commitment to those recommendations since the start of all of this. I am not wavering from that. I've taken some heat for it. I stand by it because I believe that the CDC has been the one organization where I can look at what the scientists are saying and feel comfortable with what they're saying. So the difference would have been, as a district, we maintained the 6 feet rule from day one in the classroom and lunches and everything else, versus DESE, Department of Elementary Secondary Education, came up with a whole nother group of doctors, their own people, and basically said no less than 3 feet, but 6 feet preferred, which is what caused a lot of controversy. And I know that some of the families online tonight, I've had some private discussions with you. That was a concern that you had. As we look to come back, March 22nd, for your children in DLA, if you continue to remain in DLA, or students coming back in person, March 22nd, which is this coming Monday, will be a full professional development day. Our contract for our educators, both our teachers and paraprofessionals, is 182 days, of which 180 days are directly related to teaching and learning of your children. So in this particular case, this year, the state made the teaching and learning section of the contract 170, if you will, but that still meant that I had 182 days with the teachers, and the paras. So this day actually comes into play because it allows us that day to have professional development and then move into the actual start of school for pre-K to 5. Now, to be quite honest, I'm using pre-K to 5, but Vinny Searcy will tell me that pre-K has been in. So it's just, it's the model that we use is always pre-K to 5. I didn't want to confuse people with even more lingo and dates. But our preschools, our Little Lancers preschool has been coming in, and we continue to have students register and come in. So pre-K to 5 will return to in-person learning day one, as I'm calling it, on March 23rd. Grade 6 to 8 will return to in-person learning day one on March 29th. Those are in stone. Those will happen. I don't have any reason to believe that they are going to be changed in any way, shape, or form. So if you're a family that's in the DLA and you're still considering in person, this is the week for you to start thinking about it. And let me tell you why. Well, let me finish. Grades 9 to 12, as I said earlier, we'll have some commentary in the next 48 hours about day one for that age group. But when we look at pre-K to 5, 6 to 8, or 9 to 12, Digital Learning Academy Parent Choice Remote Learning has specific dates when you can return on, and these are the only dates that you can return on, except in special circumstances that could arise and have to be cleared through my office. So pre-K to 5, you have that should say actually March 23rd, not 22nd. That's a typo on that one. But March 23rd, then you have another date where you can return full in person as a DLA student, which is April 12th. And then you have another date, which is May 10th. Okay, and those are all Mondays. With grade 6 to 8, you have the 29th, which is the first day everybody's coming back from the hybrid model, but you can also come back. You have April 26th, which is the Monday after vacation. And then you have May 24th. That would be the last possible date for the middle school. And the high school, you're going to have a return date and then one option at the high school, because the high school is all about the transcripts. It would be somewhat an issue if we didn't do it that way at the high school level. The other part that I think is really important as we look at all of this is our expectations of students as we're coming back. The state has said that DLA students, or the remote parent choice, can come back within a 4 to 6 week period. As you will see, mine is basically a 4-week period. I've taken the lesser, but you want to communicate if you're coming back sooner than, for example, the April 26th, if your child's in 6th to 8th grade, is the Monday after vacation. you don't want to communicate on that Monday. You would want to communicate before the vacation that you want to come back so that administrators can prepare to make sure that students have schedules. And I know Vinny's on this and he can talk a little bit about this a little bit more. Vinny Searcy, who also oversees counseling and SEL and all of that and has been at the high school level the last couple of years with us. We're building transcripts in 6 to 12. One transcript that's a simpler transcript in 6 to 8 is one that can be used for students specifically who leave Norton Public Schools and move on to the Aggie, the vocational or private school. And in some ways used by us about what courses they're going to take as freshmen. But at the high school level, it's all about the transcript, right? It doesn't matter what your child is doing in the future. That transcript is what we create and help to support them with. So one of the things that's come up here is that we want to make sure that those students that are in the Edgenuity product of the DLA, they are potentially taking classes in DLA that are not fully aligned, specifically electives, with the high school curriculum and or things like AP classes, the upper classes. So Vinny, I don't know if you want to take like a minute and just speak a little bit about that, just to make sure that parents get direct information as they're making these decisions.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that have to be considered is the way that the DLA was set up for the students and how they've gone through that process, especially using Ingenuity, is that some of those courses were self-paced with teacher support. So we have to take into consideration sort of where each student is in that process. So some students are going to be ahead of where their peers are right now at the high school, and then other students are going to be behind. So we have to take a look at sort of where they are in the curriculum and how that would fit for them coming back. So in some cases, we're going to have that individual discussion, and we've already had some students and families reach out to us, and Ms. Prue, the guidance counselor, and myself are meeting with individual students to give them that information. So that's your sort of your core classes. Again, for the electives, many of the students chose to take online electives that we don't offer at the high school. So those students, we have to have a discussion about how far along are you. We have to take a look at where they would be housed, so to speak. If they were taking an elective, could they go to the library? Is there room at that time of the day based on their schedule? Does it kind of make sense for them to complete that online, or to try to step into an elective that, depending on when they join us back, could be halfway through the semester, a little less than that. So those are all individual discussions with students that we need to consider. And then for the AP, it gets even a little bit more complicated. AP is run by College Board, and each of those classes, the teachers have to submit a syllabus, and it has to meet their guidelines, but they're not exactly the same, and they don't always use the exact same materials. So there's a variety of books or other supports that teachers can choose to use in their syllabus. And again, the College Board doesn't allow movement from one to another in the ways that you would think. So again, where are they? How far along are they compared to their peers? In some cases, students would need to almost start again in those processes. So we really have to be careful with the high school students in coming back to make sure that we have not only the curriculum that supports them, but also that it makes sense for their transcripts, that colleges and technical schools are going to understand and appreciate, and does it really make sense for the student depending on where they are and sort of where their grades are. That's the other thing we have to consider is, especially if a student is not on pace, what is that grade going to look like once they come to the high school? Is that going to hurt them in any ways? We don't want that. We want to make sure that they're coming in on a positive footing and can move forward. So in many cases, we're going to have to sit down individually with students and take a look and explain their options. And we're willing to do that.
Thanks, Vinny, very much. I just want to spend 15, 20 seconds on this expected student conduct. I have always been someone who believes in student conduct being something that has to be adhered to. I can only share with you that we will be, of course, flexible with students who have significant learning disabilities and issues. That's part of who we are as a school culture and a climate, but we also want to make sure that we cannot tolerate students that are being misbehaving on a regular basis because of whatever may be happening. And it's really, really important that you recognize that we're still in a risk situation as we return to school. Like it or not, I'm going to use that phrase. And we want to make sure that our students understand what that means. And I have to assure you, or I have to tell you, we have fantastic kids in Norton Public Schools. I can tell you, as one of the administrators that's worked in other districts, that we have really good kids. I'm not going to go through this and read this, but I just want to give you some general, again, this will be sent to you tomorrow. I just wanted to give you some general ideas of the goalposts. So transportation right now is, every other window down 2 inches on in the bus and all of that, but it's 2 kids per seat. It's every seat's assigned so that we can do contact tracing. Their buses are cleaned on a regular basis. Students should be grabbing the sanitizers, they get on the bus, all of that stuff. But again, we're utilizing that process within our schools, within our bus routes. And if you haven't yet decided to take the bus and you are a DLA parent that's interested, it's $52 for the rest of the year. 5 days a week, pick up and drop off, starting on whatever date you're coming back with your child's age. So incredibly reasonably priced. And we hope that you do it. And specifically in one of our buildings, the JCS. The JCS is a parking lot. It is Route 128 for anybody who's my age. It is the old Boston Garden if you're my age. It's the Turnpike westbound at 4 o'clock. It's whatever you want to think about it. It is a mess. And part of the reason is we have too many cars for pickup and drop off, and we're really pushing families to try to take the bus. Classrooms will all be at a minimum of 3 feet, and in most of our buildings, they're more than that. And during lunches, I'll talk about that now too, they're always at 6 feet. Okay, so those are the guarantees about space that we put in place. All of our teachers will be wearing, if they so choose, they have the option of wearing K95 masks, KN95s. Our students in all grades, except for those that are documented, will be wearing masks. We will continue to sanitize all areas. As you know, as you come into the school, you'll see a ton of sanitation areas within our schools, probably here to stay, by the way, for the future, regardless of where COVID is. I think many of these things are going to stay in place. And then our cleaning and sanitation will continue with the same attempt that we've had since the closing of our schools back in March, with routine cleaning, high touch areas being touched on a regular basis, and cleaning. The picture on the right is Wade Lazard, and we kept this picture in here because I wanted to speak clearly about this. These ventilation systems in all of our schools are utilizing the appropriate systems for whatever the age group is, if you will, of the building. So an older building like the Yale is using a MERV 8, for example, versus the high school of 13, versus the middle school at 8 or a 12. And what you have here is not only we've already done 3 cleaning out of our vent systems this year, which is more than we would normally do. It's typically beginning and end of year. We've done it 3 times already this year. But the second part is we have had air quality tests done in our buildings and passed all of those. Those are on our website, by the way, in the facilities department. And then added to that, we have an air exchange recommendation for our units, which must be no less than 6. And all of our units are at 9+ in our schools, which is a really good piece of information to have. And again, those are pieces of information that are on our website if you decide. And all of those tests have been done by a third-party certified organization, institution. These are all the chemicals that we continue to use. These all meet the guidelines of EPA for within schools, within age groups, and so on and so forth. Those continue to be there. Hallways in one direction is an area that we continue to utilize, and or with our younger kids, really walking the walls, if you will. I can think of the LGN as a perfect example of that. Bathrooms and utilizing the bathrooms continues to be a priority. We continue to have a medical waiting room in all of our nurses areas. That means we have 2 nursing areas. We have a regular nurse visit and a potential COVID nurse visit. Our nurses do test the adults now within the district, as you probably have heard. Arrival and departing procedures continue to be part of the norm for us. Recess is available to students, and we are opening up our playgrounds for K-5 as well. Cafeterias, again, those are all spaced at 6 feet at every grade level. No excuses at all when it comes to that. That's why we're using potentially different spaces. Again, ventilation becomes really important for all of that as well. We're using alternative spaces such as potentially tents outside, especially for rain days. We're having students picking up their lunch now and right in line, if you will, grabbing their lunch, going to sit down, taking their mask off, having their lunch. Please utilize the website link in order to register for your food, et cetera. Food delivery did stop as of March 15th of this week, by the way, to homes. And then just the general, as of March 8th, our latest update from CDC on the guidelines that we continue to follow. We are following all of the guidelines that are being provided for the districts. And we are using CDC over and above anything else within the district. So we get some questions. Which classroom grade levels are 3 feet distance in classrooms? So that is the best way to answer that question is that each room is different. So an example might be Marty over at Mr. Gagan over at the Yale might have a grade 5 classroom that will be at no less than 3 feet, and across the hall, a classroom that will be at 3.5 feet, and across the other side of the hall at 4 feet. Each of the rooms have different configurations, but that's the answer that I give you. We will not go under the 3 feet of student to student. Past air quality test, great question. What that means is we brought in a third party, and we actually had an air quality test done of they choose and pick the classrooms that they want, and they do the actual air quality test according to the industry standards, and they are using guidelines for public schools within the COVID guidelines that are being provided. This also means that within those schools, it's not every classroom that's done. That's not the industry standard. The industry standard is to choose areas of the school that we either have an issue about, or in this particular case, we actually have the company choose any and all of the areas. All of our buildings have passed air quality tests twice this year, once before children were let into the building, and once since children have been in the building, which was in December. We chose December with the company simply because of the change in the weather and so on and so forth. The difference between 3 feet versus 6 feet at the high school, again, no classroom anywhere in the district will be at less than 3 feet. All lunches will be provided at 6 feet. There is no differentiation between a kindergarten classroom and a high school classroom at 3 feet in the classroom. There's no differentiation 6 feet for lunches. The only difference is different classrooms are different square footage with different amount of students in it. So no less than 3 feet could mean a classroom your child is in one period of the day is 4 feet, and another one it's 3.5 feet, and another class it's 5 feet. We have folks just commenting about people are ready to come back. I can assure you as a dad, I'm ready as well. We are trying and attempting to provide you folks as DLA parents just some general information so you can make those decisions about your family. Please recognize that this is not a push to try to get you in. This is just informational, and you decide. You're being provided optional dates so that when you start to hear if things are really good and positive, you say to yourself, you know what, now I'm ready to come in. You got that 4-week window to learn your data and your information and make another decision. And at the elementary grades and middle school, you have a couple of options to do so. And that's been something that we are attempting to provide the DLA families, not to hold you back from coming in, but to allow for you to have time to create your own data points that you feel comfortable about in order to support the decision that you make at home. And that's the only reason for that. There is no hidden agenda. And again, please continue to pass on the message that if you want to stay in DLA, you can. and we fully support you, and we'll continue to provide the best that we can, which in some cases has been tremendously successful. I've heard from families that are it's been a success. I've heard from families it's been a success because there are significant medical issues in the family. Again, this is what family decisions are all about. And we're working to address providing you the information so you can make those decisions, and then we'll work with you to bring things back. The biggest issue, there's a question here: in general, any DLA students have been more isolated than hybrid students during the pandemic. Please outline your step-by-step weekly check-in plan to work with these students, follow up with them, and maintain a level of mental health and allows them to return to school in ease. So this is one of the big questions with any student that, and I'm going to guess that this is a potential DLA choice family who's now saying, I'm coming back. That's how I'm going to read that. So one of the things we're going to want to do is really create at the building level those check-in processes for students. One of the big things that I am pushing with our staff through Vinnie Searcy's office, our principals, and Jen O'Neill, our assistant superintendent's office, is anything and everything to do with making sure that we are checking in with students on a daily basis, specifically during the first 2 weeks of school. The very check-ins that originally we were said to do when we started remote learning, which was just check in with students. We want to make sure that every morning at every level, students are checking in with their teachers, and that teachers are starting the day, if you will. At the elementary, we have our early morning meeting. We want those types of meetings to be happening throughout all of our schools in the district. It's more formal at the elementary than it is at the secondary, but it's the same idea. And that will include that if you have a child who has some anxiety, we need to know ASAP. Reach out to the building principal and or more specifically the counselor if you have been working with the counselor that your child is coming back, a quick email, CC the principal on it or the assistant principal on it, CC me if you want. The idea here is to communicate if you're seeing something so that we can have a tentative plan in place for day one. And that could be simply greeting the child at the door with the right people. We do this all the time with students who have issues of anxiety or concerns, or they're nervous, they're not sure, and so on and so forth. So communication is key. And if you're having an issue with it, feel free to utilize my office, the Let's Talk. I'm pretty good about responding to that. And then I will make sure that people get back to you ASAP. Will windows be open in classrooms in warmer days, and does that help ventilation? It's actually a catch-22 with ventilation, believe it or not. Yes, windows always help. But remember that the system of air at the Yale runs from outside, inside, and it circulates and goes through the ventilation system. It's like it's almost like a circle, if you will. So the air quality with open windows actually doesn't hurt it at all. It only helps it. So we're happy to make sure those windows are open. I can see the third floor at the Yale being warm in May and June. The percentage of classes devoted to catching 10th grade student up so they pass the MCAS, that's a really good question. I think that's going to be something where we're going to have to feel out where students are. Right now, those tests are still scheduled to take place, but we're trying to get some more information. I can assure you that my biggest issue with anything to do with MCAS is I understand as a father of a freshman who has to take a test in science that we want our students to pass these tests and do well on these tests. I have less concerns about testing in 3 through 8, to be quite honest. One's a graduation requirement. The 3 through 8, I don't see the benefit of having our students come in and take a test. Added to that, I do not see the benefit. And I think a lot of people didn't see the benefit, and i.e. the date changed once there was a lot of bickering about April 5th beginning to be. So the state announced April 5th the return to school for K-5. And oh, by the way, that was also the week that MCAS was scheduled to take place at the elementary grades. So all of a sudden we have a shift to May and June. I'm hoping that maybe they shift those tests to the fall, to be quite honest. Classrooms will be required to keep windows open. They're not necessarily required based on our ventilation system working at capacity. But again, if it's warm, we open up windows. We have classrooms now that are open when it's cold. We have other classrooms where they're not open. And anything that you want to add, Matt, on transportation, principals that are with us today, Ms. Bolton, Ms. Luke, Mr. Gagan, Mr. Hayward are all present. Karen Winsper with technology is here today. And thank you to our wonderful interpreters, Lauren and Gabe, for being with us, and Ms. Zelinsky as well.
Joe, the only thing I would maybe mention is that for our families that are coming back or considering coming back from DLA, as Mr. Searcy mentioned, that students are kind of all going to be in different places in comparison. They might be ahead of their peers, they might be behind their peers when they're coming back, and every student is going to have a different experience. So our classroom teachers, that is their area of expertise. We're going to look at every individual case. We're going to look at our students. We're going to really focus on where are those areas that may need some intervention when they return to school, and where are those areas that we can foster and enrich because perhaps they have a stronger understanding of certain concepts, really accelerate that curriculum piece. So, we understand for families that this is a difficult decision, but if they are comfortable in having their children come back physically in the buildings, that we will help to take care of that academic component. So don't let that be the reason you don't want them to come back.
Added to that, we have added to our budget almost $100,000 worth of tutoring for next year, starting as soon as July 1st. We have some issues that folks are not going to choose July 1st or finding people to work it. But this is a general education, special education, all education push for next year after July 1st, potentially in September, to extend the school day, before school day, after school day. We're even looking at Saturdays as a way to support families whose students need tutoring at no cost to you. So it's almost $100,000 in our operating budget. I do not see that money going away in terms of budget cuts, and I have to remove it. It's a plan that we're working on, where a parent can ask for tutoring, a teacher could ask for supporting a tutoring, or an older student could say, I'd like to do tutoring. And then they'll be fixed into specialized number of hours based on their need. A reading issue, a math issue, struggling with algebra 2, not doing well in their biology class, whatever it may be. Our goal is to really try to provide that service to students. And added to that, on a question again by one of our family members, high school right now is anticipating one-way hallways. All schools will be releasing to families their own guide to their school. So I know that my 4 principals that are on with me today, they each have a working group in their building consisting of themselves and teachers that are looking at lunches, hallways, dismissal, arrivals, so on and so forth. And they'll be sharing their specific plan with their families of the students who attend. So for some of you, you'll get a couple of those plans. They will be different because they're about that building and what has been determined is the best practice for that building. Those will all be released in the coming days as we're returning to schools. We have a question here, Vinny, on for those that have an AP exams in the school on paper and pen and not at home, will you be providing information to those students ahead of time when they should get to the school, etc.? I'm going to guess the answer to that is yes.
Yes, we will be getting all that information out to them. We are at the point now we need to know sort of how our rooms are going to look at the high school at that time, what's available. But all of that information will get to them pretty much like it has in the past. So I'll be emailing them directly, and then anybody who has questions can reach out to me and have a conversation about, their comfort level, what it's going to look like, where we're going to conduct it, all of that.
There's a question here. Thanks, Vinny. There's a question here about DLA students getting tutoring on Saturdays. If we have Saturday tutorings, yes, this will not be a DLA versus in-person program. This would be open to all students registered with Norton Public Schools. Vinny Searcy knows this better than anybody else. I'm a former AP teacher. I can't wait to open up my business someday where I can charge hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars during a pandemic and have AP tests where you can now take them online or paper pencil, and you can do it at home, or you can do it's incredible what's happening. And how I'm interested to see how the colleges are going to read some of this once this all gets done. Maybe that's a sidebar I shouldn't have said. All right, anything else that we have from our school? So safety rule number 1, Rule number 2, really taking a look at the transitional planning of students, especially your children that are coming from being full DLA. If you have concerns and issues, let's address them as soon as you can with either an email to the classroom teacher, an email to a counselor would be preferred, especially if they've been dealing with a counselor, and CCing your building principal. Our principals recognize that they're going to be overwhelmed with communications, and they're just going to have to, do the best that they can to respond to those in a timely manner and get the supports up. Staff is really excited to see kids back in the school working as teams, and it's really important that you believe that. Because as you make your decisions to come back, if that's something you're still doing, you are able to understand that there's a lot of excitement in the air. But if you choose not to do so, that's okay, and we will continue to support you. And your DLA teachers will continue to be the teachers that are there for your children for the remainder of this year, during any circumstance that takes place that I can't control. Okay. If you can hear the background, the family just arrived. The dog is going crazy, and so on and so forth. I see no other questions. Remember, you can reach out to me directly, building principal, email, or let's talk. We do try to respond to you in a timely manner. We have been overwhelmed with those in the last 2 weeks, so it takes a little longer to respond, but we are responding. And of course, you can always just call the office and leave a message, and I do respond to those as well. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And we'll be moving on to the 7 o'clock meeting. I think, is it the same link? Or is it a different link? Different link. Now I have to go find that link.
Good luck.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for
Have a
coming
great
out.
night, everyone. Thank you.
It was informative.